I never imagined that my own parents could twist the truth into something so cruel, that it felt like a knife through my chest. But there I was, staring at the phone in disbelief, hearing my father's rehearsed voice. "He doesn't want to see you, Adel. It's better if you stay away, he's tired." My grandfather was dying. A man whose hands smelled of sawdust and honey, whose laughter could fill a room, even when the walls seemed ready to cave in. He was my anchor, my secret safe place, the only person who had ever truly understood me. And now, my parents had told him that I didn't care. The world felt suddenly hollow. My chest tightened, and a bitter taste filled my mouth. How could they do this? How could they decide what he deserved to hear, and what I was allowed to feel? The anger and grief collided inside me, leaving a storm I couldn't control. I didn't stay away. I found myself at the hospital, hovering outside the sterile room, my fingers clutching the edge of the door. The hum of machines and antiseptic stung my senses, yet I couldn't turn back. He deserved the truth. I deserved to be there, but my parents' deception had built an invisible wall. That's when Nurse Sarah noticed me. She had kind eyes, the kind that see straight through lies, and she leaned close, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's been recording messages for you. He didn't want you to feel like he was alone." My heart thudded. "Messages?" I asked, my voice trembling. She nodded and handed me a small, worn tablet. "He couldn't speak as much as he wanted to, but he made sure you'd hear him." The first message played, and it broke something inside me. Grandpa's voice, weak yet full of love, called my name. My real name, not the twisted version my parents had fed him. "I know you think I'm gone," he said, "but I can hear your heart. I can feel your love through the distance, Adel. Don't let anyone tell you who you are. Don't let anyone steal this from us. Remember, always remember that I love you." Tears blurred my vision. Grief, anger, and guilt collided in a storm. My parents had not just lied to me. They had betrayed him, too. And in that moment, between sobs and the fading sound of his voice, a single thought took root in my mind: justice. I clenched my fists, the weight of betrayal heavy on my shoulders. They had underestimated me. They had underestimated love. And I would make sure they would never forget the cost of their lies. The days after hearing Grandpa's recordings felt like living in two worlds at once. On the outside, I went through the motions, smiling at my parents, answering their questions, nodding when they spoke. But inside, I was a storm coiled tighter with every passing hour. Grandpa's voice haunted me, filling the silence of my room with warmth, laughter, and the heartbreak of being lied to. It was Nurse Sarah who became my unexpected guide. She noticed my quiet rage and whispered truths that cut deeper than any argument could. "They don't see what they've done," she said, "but that's their weakness. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes the quietest ones leave the deepest scars." Her words lingered, settling into my mind like seeds in fertile soil. Revenge, justice, truth. I wanted my parents to feel the weight of their lies, not through violence, but by exposing the emptiness of their actions. I wanted them to see themselves through my eyes, to confront the harm they had done. I began observing them closely, cataloging every arrogance, every careless word, every small act of selfishness. The more I watched, the more I realized that their lives were built on illusions, a fragile empire of control and entitlement. And if there was one thing Grandpa had taught me, it was that those who betray love are always vulnerable to the truth. I started carefully, subtly. I mirrored their own manipulations, whispered truths in places they expected silence, revealed minor secrets that slowly made them lose their smug composure. Each act was deliberate, a reflection of the betrayal they had sown. I didn't need to be cruel. I needed to be precise. And through it all, Grandpa's voice was my guide. "Keep your heart strong, Adel," he had said. "Let them see you rise, not fall. Let love, not hate, be your weapon." It was ironic, realizing that the sweetest revenge wasn't destruction. It was life itself. Living fully, untainted by their lies, letting the world see who I truly was, while their own arrogance unraveled. Every act of subtle exposure, every quiet triumph over their deception, was a tribute to him. I felt a power I had never known, but it wasn't the power of cruelty. It was the power of truth. They had tried to erase my love for Grandpa, to silence the bond between us. Instead, they had ignited something stronger, the resolve to honor him, to protect his memory, and to make sure their betrayal would never be forgotten. And in the quiet nights, when the world was still and Grandpa's recorded voice played softly, I realized that revenge was no longer about anger. It was about love, loyalty, and reclaiming what they had tried to steal. The day finally came when I could no longer carry the weight of their lies silently. My parents, confident in their deceit, had no idea that I knew the truth, that I had seen the fragility behind their carefully constructed arrogance. They smiled smugly when I walked into the living room that morning, thinking their betrayal had gone unnoticed, that I was still the obedient child they could control. I let them enjoy that illusion for a moment, savoring the quiet before the storm. My chest ached with memories of Grandpa, of his gentle hands and patient smile, and of the voice that had whispered courage into my heart even from beyond his fading strength. I took a deep breath and spoke, my voice calm but firm. "I know what you told Grandpa," I said, letting each word land like a stone. "I know you lied, and I know why." Their faces froze. The confident mask slipped for just a second, revealing fear beneath the surface. We did it for you," my mother stammered, her voice cracking. "We thought you wouldn't be able to handle him, he's so sick." I shook my head, disbelief and anger twisting together. "I could handle him. I love him, and your fear doesn't excuse betrayal. Not to me, not to him." Then I showed them the recordings, the small tablet that held Grandpa's trembling voice, calling my real name, professing his love, sharing memories and wisdom that they had tried to erase. They listened in stunned silence, their expressions a mixture of guilt, shame, and helplessness. Each word from his lips was a hammer against the walls of their pride. "You thought you could control the story," I continued, my voice steady, "but truth cannot be silenced. You tried to dictate who I was, who he was, but love cannot be dictated." Their silence was deafening. For the first time, they truly saw me, not the child they wanted, but the person Grandpa had always known me to be, strong, loyal, full of love, and unwilling to be manipulated. "I won't forgive you," I said softly, but with a quiet authority that carried more weight than any scream could. "Not yet, but know this. You don't get to control my love. You don't get to steal it from anyone else either." The power had shifted. The fear, shame, and helplessness they had denied me for so long now belonged to them. And I realized that revenge didn't have to roar. It could whisper, subtle yet undeniable, leaving a mark deeper than any strike of anger. In that room, filled with unspoken words and lingering tension, I understood something vital. Revenge wasn't about hurting them. It was about reclaiming what was mine, what Grandpa had entrusted to me, and proving that love, even in betrayal, is stronger than deceit. Grandpa passed quietly one night, the world outside hushed as if in reverence. His frail hand rested in mine, warm despite the weakness of his body. I whispered the words I had practiced in my head 1,000 times, the words I had longed to say aloud while he was still with us. "I love you, Grandpa. I'll never forget you." The recordings had guided me through every step of my plan, the subtle acts of justice, the quiet exposure of my parents' arrogance, and the reclaiming of the love they had tried to suppress. And now, in the stillness of that hospital room, I felt a bittersweet sense of completion. Grandpa's final gift to me wasn't just his memories. It was the knowledge that love and truth are stronger than deceit. After the funeral, the house felt emptier than ever. My parents lingered, awkward and hollow, aware of the quiet judgment that followed me everywhere. They had lost something far more valuable than me, the respect and love of a man who had trusted them until the end. And though they hadn't learned their lesson entirely, I saw the cracks in their carefully constructed world, the invisible weight of guilt settling over them like dust. Nurse Sarah remained by my side, a steady presence who had guided me when my grief was sharpest and my anger most overwhelming. Together, we rebuilt the fragments of life that had been broken by lies. With each day, I felt the power of resilience, of living honestly and fully in the shadow of betrayal. I had taken the poison of their deception and transformed it into something that could not be stolen: strength, memory, and love. Walking away from my parents' house one last time, I felt a sense of liberation. Their whispers of regret and silent reproach followed me, faint yet inevitable, but I no longer carried them in my chest. Grandpa's lessons, his wisdom, courage, and unwavering love, were mine to carry forward. His voice, captured in trembling recordings, would always remind me that true justice doesn't come from cruelty. It comes from living with honor, with love, and with the courage to rise above betrayal. Revenge had been sweet, yes, but not in the way the world imagines. It wasn't about making them suffer. It was about preserving what they could not destroy. My love for Grandpa, my integrity, and the memory of a man whose heart was far larger than their lies. And in that preservation, in the quiet strength of living fully, I found peace. The hollow ache of betrayal had been replaced by something richer: hope, resilience, and the quiet knowledge that I had honored Grandpa in the only way that truly mattered.